A +20 Gambit. The affixes were Fortified, Raging, Explosive, and Encrypted. I am playing Resto Shaman. I'm running Kyrian with Mikanikos, Soulbind, and Deeptremor Signet is my legendary. I panic at the start here on this first pull and forget all my buttons, but eventually manage to get out Spirit Link. And then immediately help with the explosive orbs. So whenever it's explosive week, I make sure to bind Frost Shock somewhere very easy. So I usually don't actually even have Frost Shock on my bars because I have, limited real estate for spells, and shamans have a lot of buttons, but on explosive weeks, Frost Shock gets prime real estate. Resto Shaman's really, really good at getting them. You shouldn't need too much help with them at all. I'm very spoiled in this run because the Survival Hunter helps me out a lot. There's quite a few of these Murloc pools, and the Goliath, I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not. We usually avoid them as much as possible, largely because of their tidal stomp ability. So you can see we've all got a debuff now. He's cast it once, it did AoE damage, and then debuffs us. Here comes another one, and now we're at 2 stacks. I think it's something like 25% extra damage taken for each stack. So we're at 50% at the moment. But thankfully they kept it, so now you don't get any more than 2 stacks. So I'm just trying to top up the group before this tidal stomp. I used Astral Shift there as well. You can see it did a lot less damage to me because of that. But it's still quite a lot to kill through. And I think he does one more, and I call for my group to use defenses to help out. We accidentally got Vi there. We don't often get Vi deliberately. We would have preferred but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. So there are 2 notable Murloc groups. Mobs. One of them is this Shell Crusher who's currently casting Cry of Murgulu. That will enrage all the Murlocs around him. So if you want to try and cap totem that, that might be helpful, and depending on the affixes, it might really help out your tank. But I'm not keeping cap totem for that. I'm cap toteming reasonably early most of the time. And that's because stunned mobs don't spawn explosive orbs. So I can sort of buy myself some time at the start of the pool when everything's a bit more hectic and focus a bit more on healing or DPSing and a bit less on frost shocking explosive orbs. I'm still using Vesper Totem every pull, making sure to hit as many targets as possible when I first placed that. I dropped my Earth Elemental on the first pull. Probably have my cooldown by now if we had instead of Vi. That's fine. The other important Murloc is the Scalebinder. So you can see this pack has one. The Scalebinder casts Invigorating Fish Stick. It's non-interruptible, it is stunnable, but it's way too fast to try and get with Cap Totem, so there's not much that Resto Shamans can do about it. Except, maybe get lucky sometimes. If that fish stick comes out, then all the Murlocs get healing over time and damage reduction. So everyone needs to swap to that fish stick as soon as possible, which you can do as Resto as well. The Murlocs all run away when they're low, so it's a good time to be dropping out Earthbind Totem or Cap Totem then if you have it. And then on explosive weeks, just keeping an eye out because they'll drop explosives out in range, like so. Just fine as long as you notice it, because we're very good at getting them. But as our tank pulls back here, some explosive orbs spawn. You can range or line of sight them. So here we just pull back a little bit to make sure we're out of its range, rather than trying to run in and get them. We should be getting Woe here, but we get by mistake. And also there's 2 fish sticks down, so it's a bit hectic trying to help out with the sticks and the explosives. And because we got instead of woe, we will end up using invis pots to try and get down the hallway. And it's doable if you don't mess it up, but you don't have anywhere near as much time as if you had the woe buff. And I mess it up, and I'm not the only one. So you waste a little bit of time dying and rezzing people during the hallway skip to the first boss. For the first boss, I usually try and get a little bit of damage on whichever relic we're killing, which is usually just to make sure that we get the right thing. And then I'm dropping Vesper Totem and helping to damage things down. When these ads come out, I typically throw out a Cap Totem and help kill them. That sharing swings can chunk your tank quite a lot, so just be mindful of that when that comes out. And make sure, obviously, if you get targeted by the laser beam, to run away, and I would not advise running in front of the boss because he also has a big frontal cone, which I learned on this run. I run away from the laser into that frontal cone. I think I just missed getting hit, but it was a little bit scary. And there is a weak aura that can help with the puzzle, so whoever goes up to the console will type in party chat which color goes where, but we don't have it at the moment, we're just calling it out. It's not too difficult. We had lusted on the first pull because it's fortified. So we don't lust this boss. We decide to hold it, and I think we pop it on some of the cool Kyrian ads coming up. The trash on the way to the next boss, because they're pretty tough, so. Yeah, so we lust here. I've dropped Vesper Totem. Dropping out some damage. And I cap here, again, I think because of the explosives, but because it's raging, I probably would have been better off holding it until things were a little bit lower, just to help offset that. I start getting afraid for my tank as well because of the raging, so I'm just pumping him with a healing surge. Probably doing a bit of overhealing there, but just being cautious. Tank drops really low here, and I think he starts to cut away. But unfortunately, the deckhands, I think it might be that haymaker ability that they have, will hit the nearest target. So if the tank walks away, then they'll hit whoever's next, which is usually a melee. And I think they demolish Paladin. There he goes. So for Captain Hooktail, we're positioning ourselves close to the wall. I believe that just makes it easier for the tank to hit the ads as they walk in with this frontal cone, because everything's going the same direction. I had popped my Earth Elemental on the last trash group, and he's still up for a little bit. I think I get quite lucky here. I never get hooked by the bot. If I had been, that probably would be where I'd use Spirit Walker's Grace. But it doesn't happen. Just dodge a bit of fire. And things get a little bit messy at one point, and the boss gets turned away from me, and apparently her tail has a grapple, so she picks me up. which was very disorienting. But not too bad. Throw down the spirit link there just to stabilize myself. But it was fine. It wasn't really necessary. Just walk around and scout the top here. Jump down. So these groups, the accomplices and ritualists, there is a lot in here that you need to interrupt. The accomplices, once they reach 40%, they cast Reinvigorate, which will heal them basically back up to full. So that needs to be interrupted. And then the ritualist has a big AoE ability called Unstable Rift. That also needs to be interrupted. With the accomplices, if they're getting burned down at the same rate, then you can throw out a cap totem about the time they reach 40%, and you should get all of their Reinvigorate casts with that one cap totem. And that will free up your kick as well for Unstable Rift. And then your team is probably going to be helping with that as well, so you should have everything pretty well covered. I'm also dispelling the tank here because that debuff that he gets, it just increases damage that he takes from that ability. One of them gets a Reinvigorate off. So does Purge it. I think it's just a haste buff that they get after the fact. It's not a hot, but I still purge it off. Nastasia's just have two abilities, so Drifting Star, just don't stand in front of it. And then the Wandering Pulsar needs to be burned down. And you can help with that. There'll be some AoE healing there as well, but shouldn't be too deadly. We're up to the last boss. So again, we grab and then these assassins can wipe your team if you don't get the kick on Shuriken Blitz. So make sure that you are ready to grab those. Now the Collapsing Star. I usually am the one to pop it. For the first one, I'll run into it the 4 times to get all the dots out while that buff is up, because it can heal us up. I did also drop Healing Tide there, but that was a mistake. I shouldn't have. And then for the others, I'll run into it the 3 times and let the 4th one expire. So Leah phases at 40%, and we start positioning ourselves to hit these little stars with the arrows. And as soon as that's done, I Bloodlust. A lot of groups pull the boss all the way into the right corner because it helps a lot to dodge this energy fragmentation. But I had just done a run like that. I get hit there. I just done a run where they pulled into the corner, and I found it incredibly frustrating because this Collapsing Star was so far away from the group that it was out of range. So I had to go and pop it and then run back to the group to heal them, and then go pop it and run back to the group to heal them. And I found that horrible, and I just really didn't want to do it. So I asked my tank not to move all the way to the corner. In hindsight, we probably could have moved a little bit, like in that direction, so we weren't in the middle of the stars, because I think that still makes it easier. I forget that it's fragmentation here and start moving to it because I think that we're going to have to run the arrows through them again, but we're not. I'm lucky I don't get hit again. And here you'll see I'm like the first one, and it's really hard to see where my line is. It's like just the edge of my screen. It's because I'm the first one, I think. Like, that's such a useless spirit link. Don't use spirit link like that. I should have used it when I was popping Collapsing Star. Just nothing there. But yeah, I was the first one to have the arrow, and it was going to someone far away from me, so it just didn't even look like I had one. You just have to keep a real close eye out for that. And I just ignored that Collapsing Star because it was so close to getting it.